want to do anything to scare your children. That's the last thing we want to do. We don't want to scare anybody.
Welcome to Acting on the Run, the podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Welcome to Acting on the Run, episode 14. Thank you so much for joining me. All the new listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the podcast. If this is your first episode, thank you so much. I hope that I can give you some information, insight into this world of entertainment and acting and music and theater, whatever it is that you do in entertainment. I hope that I can help, not necessarily to guide you exactly how you should go, but give you some advice, tips, and help you to figure out your path. Because everybody's path in this game is different. And everybody, the way that you get to where you want to be in this industry is different for everybody. Everybody can't walk down the same path. And that's what that's what I kind of want to give with this podcast, just a way to show that you have to find your path. You have to find your lane. And whatever that is that you stumble upon while you're searching, that's the lane that you go down. And everybody, who is ahead of us in this game, we have to follow their example and their footstep, but create our own path. I hope that made sense. But again, thank you so much for tuning in. And this podcast is more than just for entertainment. I feel like anything discussed on this podcast can translate from the entertainment industry to the automotive industry to retail to sales to medical, whatever it is, whatever industry that you're in. I feel like that the tidbits of information on this podcast, while the details may be specific to entertainment, the actual methods can be cross-used. So I hope that made sense to some. I'll go into detail more with specifics later on in the podcast, but I feel like that anything discussed can be used across multiple platforms. So I just want to share that because I don't want anybody to see this podcast and feel like it's only for actors or musicians or thespians. I don't want you to think that this podcast is just for that. So if you're not in that field, that you can't take anything away from this podcast. That's my message. But anyway, welcome back, everybody. I hope everybody's been having a great new year. I hope everybody has been enjoying all the great, things that have been happening in entertainment. One of the big things that happened just yesterday was the Super Bowl. I didn't necessarily get a chance to watch the Super Bowl. Usually I do, but yesterday I was a little tied up, so I didn't get to. I caught maybe a couple plays, but I didn't really get to see the whole thing. I hope the halftime performance was great. I was told that Rihanna was going to be performing. I did kind of want to catch it just to see her performance, and that's kind of it's kind of crazy coming from me because I've always been a big football fan. However, I've never really been interested in the halftime shows of the Super Bowl. I always love music. Music is something that, runs through my veins. I love music. I listen to music almost all day, every day. If not all day, most of the day, I have some music going, whether it's in a headphone, whether it's on a speaker. Music helps me to, I guess, flow a little bit. But I didn't get to see it. I hope it was great. If anybody has seen it and wants to chime in and let their voice be heard, hit me up. You can contact me via email if you have my email. If you don't have my email, just ask me for it and I'll give it to you. If you are able to leave a comment on the podcast, please do. And also, anybody who listens to the podcast, if you're not in LA, because it doesn't matter. If you want to reach out, if you have a contribution that you feel like that you would like to make to the podcast, if you have some experience that you've had, or if you've seen some things that you feel like could help our audience, feel free, drop me a line, leave a comment, send an email, a DM, however it is. Feel free to reach out. I'm always down for collaborating on work. So if there's anybody who wants to do that, let me know. I'm always open for it, and I'm sure that you have some valuable information that some need too, because I don't know everything. I don't want to claim to know everything. I only know what I've experienced. So, and that's what I share. So enough of that introduction. Welcome again, and thank you so much. I can't thank all of you guys enough. Anybody who, tunes in, even if it's just for 5 minutes for the podcast, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to know that somebody is getting this information, because I don't necessarily want to just be speaking into a mic and not reaching anybody. So if I am reaching you, I'm glad I am. I'm glad your ears are tuned in. Okay. So episode 14. Let's see. Episode 13. I know that was mainly like a catch-up episode because I hadn't done one in a couple months. So this episode, I wanted it to be a little bit more structured, and I gotta quit saying I don't want to do that. I know that's something that I talked about in previous podcasts as well, so I'm trying to stay away from that. So this episode, I want to talk about a little in detail costume. Not necessarily all costume, but I wanted to talk about what you bring to your project. So working in this, you don't necessarily get to choose. Well, you do get to choose, but you choose your roles, and you choose, what roles you're accepted for and what roles that you want to do. But you don't necessarily have the power to choose the style of the show, because all projects, whether it be a TV show, a movie, a theater production, a music video, an industrial tutorial, and what I mean by industrial is by, say if you go and get a job at Best Buy, for example, and they sit you in the back room and they say, okay, watch this training video for an hour and a half, and when you're done, go and work the floor, because that was your training. That training video, that is what would be considered industrial, because that is what's used. So like that script, that's what's used for the training video, is performed out by actors. At times it will be actually, a company spokesperson. So it may not always necessarily be an actor, but it is a genre for actors. Where was I getting? Oh yeah, I don't know why I got so long-winded on that, but I just want to explain that to anybody who doesn't understand that. And so, but my point in saying all of that was that in each job, you won't necessarily have a choice in, okay, like, because you don't create the project. So whatever project that you're doing, you want to be in costume for that project. So if you're playing a boss, so if you're playing a president of a company, or a CEO of a company, or a department lead of a company, you want to dress the part. So you may be business, you may be slightly business casual, depending on the specifics of the job. But you want to have your clothes match your clothes have to match your position. So just like any other job, if you were going to be a plumber, you wouldn't wear a three-piece suit to be a plumber because that doesn't match. Because as a plumber, you're going to get dirty. So as a plumber, you might wear, t-shirt, jeans, have your butt crack showing just to, fit the part. But if you're playing a president of a company, you might have on a suit. Or if you're playing an athlete, if you're playing a football player, you may have on shorts and cleats. If you're playing a basketball player, you may have on a cutoff shirt and a headband. These are just examples. But you want your costume to match your role. Now, excuse me. In a lot of instances, a lot of projects and a lot won't. Some will and some won't. It depends on the capital behind the project. But some will have a costume department. Some will not. Some may have a wardrobe representative or something like that may look over your costume and then either approve it or disapprove it or ask you to adjust it. Some projects may have a whole costume department. Like if you're working with a major production studio, they'll have a whole warehouse of clothes, so you don't necessarily need to pick your clothes, but you want to bring something to the table. So say if you're working a project and they ask you to bring some clothes, some projects very specifically won't have you bring any clothes because some may be a period piece. So like say if we're in 2023 and you're doing a piece from the 70s, none of the clothes that you have will match what they need, because unless you were around in the 70s, you may have done some thrifting for some 70s clothes, or you may have had some hand-me-downs from the family that were from the 70s. So in that instance, okay, you win. But in a normal situation, say if all of your clothes you've bought recently, or you've bought within the last decade at least, those clothes won't necessarily match. So in that instance, you would have a costume designer feed you or provide you with your costume. But it's always good to bring something to the table because you never know what costume may or may not have. They may have something that's perfect for you but not in your size. So it may be the perfect outfit, but the shoes may be a size too big, or the pants may be a little too small, or the shirt may be, cut not necessarily tailor-made to your body. So always bring something to the table and what I mean by bringing something to the table, let me explain that if you're doing a project and there's a certain type of clothes there's a certain costume that you're supposed to be in, to match that role. Do the best that you can. Like, okay, for example, I was supposed to play a patron on the show, but it was all, business casual for the most part. And what I provided was, I brought some clothes, just to give option. I ended up being styled by costume anyway, but the one thing that I did get to use of my own was my shoes. So that was me bringing something. Not to say that they didn't have any shoes that I could have worn, but my shoes were my touch. So that's something to think about, because you'll watch a lot of different shows, movies. Like one that pops off in my head when I think back to shows that I would watch is the Wayans brothers. And I remember Marlon Wayans. He would always be fresh. He would always have the either the fly Nikes, Jordans, Reeboks. He would always be fresh on his feet. His clothes would be, nice jersey, shirt, whatever, combination that he put together. And some of that, I don't know this for a fact, and I haven't met Marlon Wayans, so I can't say that he styled everything himself. But I like to think that with the consistency of the styling, that I would like to think that he had something to do with it. He brought something to the table, even if it was just the shoes, because costume might have given him all of his clothes. Because a lot of times also with clothes and costume, wardrobe, however you want to put it, that a lot of times in production you can't have certain logos, certain designer brands because of advertising. So you can and you can and you can't. So it's like you can, because I don't know any designer necessarily that will be mad at free promo. However, depending on what that particular project is about, that particular designer may not support that. And a quick example would be like, Kyrie Irving and his brand, and certain companies not wanting to be connected to him because of certain things that he's said and done. Not to say that that he's done anything wrong or anything like that. I'm not here to judge anybody, because we all live our lives and we all make mistakes and do things that when we look back that we shouldn't have done, or maybe we should have done differently. So can't judge Kyrie for anything like that. But I understand how you being you and a company not necessarily being on that same wavelength may not want to deal with that, because that's not their lane. So your lane may not be someone else's lane, and so they may not want it to cross. So in costume, just to be safe, and this is just my opinion, I haven't had anybody necessarily tell me this, but through experience, this is what I've, the knowledge that I've gained and from what I've seen, and that they don't want you to have that because of that, because you never know. And then also, excuse me, I'm sorry about that. It's not the COVID. Trust me, it's not the COVID. But they just don't want you to have brand names and things like that. And also, it's distracting, depending on the mood of the dialogue and everything like that. It can be distracting if you're trying to talk about something serious and you have a big, happy face on your shirt, or any word or something that could be distracting from the content of the actual production. So there's many different things, but a lot of times, you on film, you're asked to be as plain as possible, which makes sense, because you want to be plain so that way you can be molded into whatever role that you're doing, because you want to fit that role as 100% as possible, So if I'm playing a role, excuse me, from back in, like the 30s or something like that, I would want to be as 30s fit as possible. So whatever I may have now that's in these days and times may not necessarily translate to what was in the 30s. So that's just something to keep in mind. But your clothes, your shoes, any props are something that's very important, because props help bring a story to life. I'm sorry for the noise in the background. I'm not sure if anybody can hear that, but I have a window open right now, so it may hear some sound, so sorry about that. But anyway, props help as well. So, any prop that you can contribute to the project, that helps as well. So say if you're doing a project and you're doing a scene for a talent show, and you happen to have a guitar, even if you don't necessarily play guitar and you happen to have a guitar, you can take that with you, even though that's not necessarily your real talent, it still is a symbolism of a talent. So, and that's basically what props are, just symbols. You're not necessarily using these things, but they're used to, fit the scene. So say because I'm sure many people have seen this, or you may not even have noticed it, but if you ever watch a scene, and it's a dinner scene, a lunch scene, a breakfast scene, a lot of times you'll see these plates that are full of food, sitting right in front of people. Now, naturally, when you go out to eat, or when you go, to a dinner or a luncheon or something like that, naturally people are eating, so you're always going to see food. But you normally don't see a full plate of food, because naturally people will eat the food. They'll eat and talk, eat as you go. But on film, it doesn't necessarily translate the same way, because you have dialogue. Now, even though you may have dialogue in a regular setting, in a film or a production, sometimes that dialogue is crucial for the overall purpose of the project. So you don't necessarily want to have a face or a mouth full of food, and then you maybe miss a line or something that's detailed, a part of that script that now you can't even hear, because the person's mouth was full of food. Or another reason, it may not look good, because watching somebody eat, okay, it's a normal thing, but who wants to sit there and watch 15, but like 2, 3, 5 minutes of somebody just eating? Nobody wants to see that. And so a lot of times the food won't necessarily be touched, but it's there to fit the setting. So if you watch a film or TV show or something like that, check that out, and just see what you think. So if you see a film and they're sitting at a table having a discussion, take a look and see how many times do they touch that plate, and how fresh does that plate look. Because a lot of times, and I'll give you a little behind the scenes, a lot of times, sometimes it could be fake foods. Sometimes it is real food, but it's used over and over and over and over. So it's like you can't eat it. So, but it's a prop, and props are important. And so I got a little long-winded, but I just want to explain that. One thing, okay, so to wrap up the beginning part of this podcast, to put a bow on it, your clothes, your props, your accessories, whether that be jewelry, hats, whatever you bring to the project, put a lot of thought into it. So put yourself in the position of the character. So if you're a character and you're playing a certain role, put yourself in that role. Or if you've never been in that role personally, visualize yourself in that role. So if you've seen someone working as a cashier, if you've seen someone working as a flight attendant, or if you've seen someone working as a butcher, if you've seen someone, working as a basketball player, if you've seen someone working as a trainer, or if you've seen someone working as, a construction worker, many different roles. But if you can visualize what you remember from those interactions, so if you've seen a construction worker and someone tells you, okay, I need you to play a construction worker in this film, transfer yourself into that construction worker. So if you've been around construction, and if you've, had every construction worker or every, construction site that I've been on, people usually act like this. People usually talk like this. People usually respond like this. People usually, position themselves like this. Pay attention to all of that and take that with you and translate that to your character, you know? So use that, translate that, and just remember those things, because life, to me, life imitates art. You know, a lot of people say art imitates life, and which it does, because I just said, you know, I just gave an example of how it does, but in the same, life imitates art. It all goes around, kind of like a 360. It all just goes around, because what an artist may see in real life, they'll depict that on screen or on stage or wherever their platform is. What someone in real life may do in real life, they may imitate that from what they may have seen on screen or on stage or out in public, you know, whatever their pleasure is. They may have seen someone play that role, and for them to go and do their role, they may start off imitating what they saw on film, you know. And you'll see that a lot in life in general. You'll see a lot of people imitate things that they've seen, say things that they've heard. So it happens, and it goes around. But it takes more than just that. You know, you have to do a little bit more. But for the basis, it's all imitation. So one imitates another, and and back and forth. So always try to put yourself in your character when you're going to play your role. And even if you're doing music, if you're doing music and you're doing a sad song, put yourself in that mood. Or if you're doing a happy song, you got to put yourself in that mood. Or if you're being, if you're trying to stunt, you got to put yourself in that mood. And then everything kind of just flows after that. But those things are very important. It can help you to land a role. It can help you to miss a role. It can help you to gain more screen time if that's what you want. It can help you to lose screen time based on, what you bring, based on your clothes, based on your props, because everything has to fit. Everything has to flow, and your flow has to match with the director's flow. So what the director is trying to put together, you have to match that, and that's how you'll get, more time, more lines, more opportunities, things like that. I hope I explained that right. If I didn't, I'll touch on that again in another podcast, because I know I kind of just jumped into it. So excuse me for that if it wasn't structured correctly. But moving on. Another thing I would like to talk about is during the process of work. We all have confidence in ourselves. We all see ourselves where we want to be. No one starts off doing anything planning to be at the bottom forever. Or if you do, I'm not trying to disrespect you, but if that's what you choose to do, then that's what you choose to do. I don't know what plan you have, so I can't judge that. So, but for the most part, those who do a job, whether it be in film and TV, in music, in retail, sales, accounting, business, whatever it is that you do, I don't think that you do it in order to stay at the entrance. You don't do it to stay at the beginning level, at the entry level. You do it if you enjoy it in order to do more and to, rise up in your field. So a lot of us have a certain amount of confidence, which is good, because you need that confidence in order to even walk through the door to do whatever it is that you're doing. So never lose that confidence, because losing that confidence can, make or break you, because confidence is a big thing. Having confidence, can take you a long way. You don't necessarily want to have ignorant confidence, but confidence, it'll help you. And then, of course, Everything else just depends on what you learn along the way and how you develop along the way. It's like a basketball player who comes in the league as a rookie, and they have talent, they have skill, and they have confidence. But if you see that same person, that person, their game develops over time, and their game gets better over time, and they still have, that same confidence that they started with and those same skills, but they had to develop them in order to fit against the competition that they're playing. Because you're not always going against yourself. So you have to, change certain things, make certain things better. And that's the same thing with working in the entertainment industry. You have to, develop your craft, have to sharpen up your skills, have to make things better. And, some things you may have to take out of what you do. Some things may be added on to what you do. And also, it all depends on what project you're working. But I said all that to say, with that confidence that you come in with, don't let that confidence make you arrogant, or don't let that confidence make you unteachable or unreachable. And mainly what I'm trying to get at is show respect. Respect. So have a respect for those around you, because everybody is working. Nobody is there just hanging out. Well, some people will be there just hanging out, but they're not a part of, the cast crew. So if you are on set, and I say this because, I have to tell myself this and remind myself of this, because having confidence in what you do, it can make you, one, it makes you eager, because you know that, okay, I know what I can bring to this, or I know what I can do, or I know that, I can say that line better, or I know that I can perform this better, or I know that, I can do this better, or if maybe not even better, I can give a different take on this, so I can do it different. And and just have a different take on it, because you can see one person do a scene and it be good, and you can see another person do a scene and it's good too. So in the end, it just depends on what your preference is, because one person may do a scene and it's good, it's great, and another person may do it and it's it's better. Are they doing anything in particular that's different? No. But they're two different people, So two different people are going to have two different takes on it, unless they study each other and then they have the same take because they studied each other. But for the most part, one person, so Bill, he'll have his take on it and he'll perform it how he sees it. And then Aaron, he'll perform his. And Aaron and Bill perform the same scene, but Aaron's take is one way, Bill's take is another. Aaron's way is good, Bill's way is good. So then at that point, it just depends on preference of the director. So I said that to say that, everybody, if you're doing something and you're working at something, you have a right to have, your take and how you see it, and I think it should be done like this. But you want to show respect to everyone around, because everyone is trying to do the same thing. So everyone is trying to, bring their essence to the project. So everybody is trying to, use what they have in their mind and try to translate that on screen, on stage, on the mic. So you have, but you just have to be respectful to the whole process, because everybody has to go through it. So always remember to show respect to your peers around you, because it means a lot, because you don't necessarily want to come off, disrespectful, arrogant, cocky. You don't want to do that, because it'll rub people the wrong way. And even if you are good at what you do, even if you are talented, in your craft, you still, you have to be personable. And a part of being personable is showing respect, because everybody deserves respect. Treat others how you want to be treated. And a lot of that, with respect ties into patience, because a lot of us, and I can't speak for everybody, but for myself, I want to do certain things and I want to be at a certain position. So, I'll position myself to do these things, but I also have to remember that, okay, while I may feel like I have the proper tools and the proper education and knowledge and skill for this, role or project, this other guy, he may have been working on this for 20 years, for example, versus me working on this for 5 years, for example. And even though I may see this person and I may say, okay, I can do what that person's doing just as well or even better, I still have to show respect to that person, because even though our skill set may be on the same, or it may not be, but it may be on the same for that particular project, this person has been doing this for so many more years that at least I would think that they would have to know, or they would have to, have some expertise that I may not have, because of just the time spent. Because time spent is a lot, even if you're not necessarily the most talented individual, if you spend a lot of time doing something, you'll have, better results, or you'll have more results, or your performance may be better than an individual who's only been doing it for a short time. Or it could be reversed, because every situation is different. But my point is to show respect to those around you and have patience in your position. Don't necessarily rush anything, because nothing is supposed to be rushed. Everything is about timing. You want to do things at the right time, have things happen at the right time, because if certain things happen at the wrong time, you may not be prepared for it, and not even know it, because there's some situations, some roles, some gigs that you may get offered to do, and say if it's what you have in your head that's what you want to do, but you haven't actually done it yet, and if you get it before you're ready, then that's just wasted opportunity, because you didn't really get to shine how you wanted to shine. So through the process, show respect to your peers around you, show respect to basically everyone around you, not just your peers, but everyone around you. So everyone who is working, everyone. So if it's your director, of course, show respect, listen, if the director wants you to do something, do it. If it's your producer and a producer, is asking you, for something, oblige him or her or them, everyone around you, everyone who works from props to costume to food, crafty, everyone around you, show respect, because it helps, it helps, and it keeps you in a good light, because no one wants to work with anybody who's, disrespectful, who has an attitude problem, who thinks that they're, better than everybody. Nobody wants to work with anybody like that, Somebody wants to work with people who are humble, You don't want to work with arrogant individuals, because it'll throw off your flow. Because if you're a good person and you're, a hardworking person and a respectful person, and this person that you're working with is just an asshole, it's gonna, and excuse me for the language, but if a person is like that, you don't want to work with them, because you can't be comfortable. And if you can't be comfortable, you can't really do your thing. Or maybe you can, because some can be uncomfortable and still perform how they should. And you should be able to, because you never know who you're going to be paired up with, who you're going to be working with. So you do want to be prepared to adjust how you have to adjust, but it's important to show respect. If anybody didn't tell you, I'm gonna tell you. It's important to show respect to everyone around you. It'll make your experience better. It'll make your results better. It'll give you longevity, because a lot of people, if you come in and you just don't have any respect, you may still work and you may still, have a little bit of success, but how long are you going to be able to hold that? Because it's not about doing something for, one time or for one check or for, one moment. Because if it's something that you really want to do, you want to have longevity in it, so that way that's all you have to do for the most part. So show respect to those around you is very important. And if you show respect, you get respect. If you don't show any respect, I doubt that you'll get the respect that you're looking for. So that's very, very important. Show respect, be humble, and just be the best person that you can be. You have to play your role. You have to perform your song. You have to perform on stage, whatever it is that you're doing. If you're working in production, if you're just a PA, you still have to, show respect and, perform at your role, because that's how you get more. Because if somebody likes working with you, they're gonna want to work with you more. So, be nice, show respect, and you'll get that respect back in return. Follow direction, keep quiet, don't, and sometimes for some of us, it may be hard because some people in general are very opinionated. So if you are an opinionated individual, and this is something that I struggle with, because at times, I don't know if anybody can picture this, but I'll try to explain it. Have you ever been in a situation to where you see something happen? You don't have to say anything. You could just go about your day saying nothing, and, everything will be just as is. But something in you may tell you, nah, say something. And you just say it, and you just say how you feel. Some of us are like that. I happen to be like that, and that's something that I have to watch at times, because at times I can say things and maybe I shouldn't, later on down the line, I may think, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or maybe I shouldn't have said that at that time. But even still, even when that does happen, if you're being truthful and you're being, and you're being yourself, you can't get mad at it. That's just who you are. And I don't want to get deep off into a sidebar, but if you are a religious person or a spiritual person, if you follow the word, if you believe in God, if you believe in Jesus, Jesus never explained, well, I can't say never, because he did, but Jesus didn't explain everything to everybody, so he left mistakes to correct themselves. So that's what we should do too, I feel like. If you do say something or do something, now if it's wrong, if it's outright wrong, and you did it trying to hurt somebody, then yeah, okay, you're wrong. You should go and correct yourself, and make amends with that person. But if you're not necessarily coming from a negative base and you're not necessarily saying what you say out of negativity, if you're saying it from a positive place, from a righteous place, then, let the chips fall how they may. But, it's not to say that it may or may not affect your situation. But everybody's life is different. I don't want to get too deep off into that because that's a whole another topic for another show maybe. But overall, in this episode, I just want to kind of go into detail about what you bring to the table. So, clothing, costume is very important. Show the costume department, all the, what would you call them? Reps, workers. I don't know exactly what you would call them, but show them respect, because they're doing a job as well. It may seem like a simple job, but how simple is it really to get dressed, to decide what you're gonna wear, how simple is that? It's not, for some people it is simple, because some people, jeans and a t-shirt, and they're good to go because everybody has different interests. But for some, it's tough because you want to, look how you want to look. And so for some, it's tough. So I say that because if you're an individual working in costume, you have to style other people that's not you. So it's like you have to put yourself in each individual's shoes to see, okay, what can this person, that's just like, because everybody can't wear the same clothes, the same outfits aren't meant for everybody because everybody, has their own personality. So one person's personality may fit a pink shirt where another person's personality may not fit that at all. So, it all depends, but show them respect. They're doing a job as well. Everybody on a set, on a production, who's ever involved. If you're working in music, anybody who's writing with you, recording with you, doing the sound, so engineering for you, making your music, so producing your track, whoever is involved, the guy running to the store to get food, whoever is involved in the project that you're involved in, show them respect. It's gonna make the whole project better. It's gonna make the whole experience better because everybody wants to feel appreciated. Nobody wants to be anywhere for hours at a time, minutes at a time even, and not feel appreciated, even if they're only, passing you a water bottle. So even if it's somebody just passing out water, show that person respect, say thank you, show them respect because it goes a long way and what goes around comes around. To put a bow on this episode, there I go saying again. That's how I know it's time to put a bow on it. So to wrap it up, show respect, always bring something to the table, even if it's not clothes, if it's props, if you can't bring anything but just a positive attitude, bring that. Always stay positive, always show respect and stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. Don't necessarily try to overstep because you never know, what someone knows, especially in entertainment, because not everybody, but a lot of people in entertainment have done a lot of different things and still do a lot of different things because you have to have, life experience in order to have it translate. Because like I said earlier, life imitates art and art imitates life. It's a back and forth, street. It's the same thing. If you disagree, please, contact me, say something, maybe I need to be enlightened on something. But all in all, I really appreciate everybody for tuning in. I hope that I gave something of substance. I don't want to just be rambling on this podcast. I know that I can get kind of like sidetracked. I know that it may not be, structured, the best, but I'm trying to give the knowledge that I do have, the experience that I do have, I'm trying to give it the best way I can. So I hope that you understand that and just flow with it. Just flow with it. I like to kind of just free flow on here. I hope that that's not necessarily a bad thing or a negative to anybody, because I'm just trying to, share some advice, share some thoughts and experience, and hope that it helps you in your journey, whatever it is that you're doing. But especially if you're in entertainment, I really hope to, at least help. So even if something I'm saying isn't new to you, but if you hear it again from me, maybe it helps to register it. Maybe it helps to solidify something, confirm something, anything. But I hope that this podcast does help. And I hope that you guys enjoy it and keep coming back. But that's going to do it for episode 14. Again, I really appreciate everybody for joining. Please, please, please keep going. Whatever you're doing, keep going. Keep making strides. A brick a day, and you'll have a wall in no time. I love you all. Stay blessed. Stay hungry. Stay at it. Stay focused. And I'll see you next time. Peace.
In school, I was the weirdest one in class. Unfortunate, I got a bag.